we call these special right triangles because their sides are always in the same relationship. Okay, and there's two special right triangles. There's 45, 45, 90 and 30, 60, 90. Okay, and they're named for their angles. So 45, 45, 90 would be the two acute angles would be 45 and that would be 90 because it's a right triangle. Besides being right, what other kind of triangle is it? Isosceles, right. Because if the two base angles are the same, doesn't that mean the sides have to be the same? So that's how we get our first relationship. Whatever this side is, this side has to be the same, right? So if this side is 3, this side is 3, right? And then if you think about it, let's do a little bit of Pythagorean theorem. This side is x and this side is x, so we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, okay? And then so x squared plus x squared is 2x squared, okay? And to get c, we'd take the square root, right? X squared breaks down into x and x, so that x has a date, so it gets to go out. The 2 is alone, so we have to stay in the basement, play Xbox. So that becomes x square root of 2 equals c. Okay, so c, if the sides are x, then the hypotenuse is always x times the square root of 2. So if this is 3 and this is 3, what's that one? 3 square root of 2, right? Because x is 3. So this is 3 square root of 2. If this is 7, what's this one? 7, and this is 7 square root of 2. If this one's 11, this one's 11, this is good. If this is 5 square root of 2, then this is 5, and this is 5. Okay? They always, 45, 45, 90 triangles always have the same ratio. Okay? So rather than having to do the Pythagorean theorem, it's sort of a shortcut. We know we don't have to solve for missing side. We know what they are already, how they're related already. Okay? That's why we stop and look at special triangles, because it saves us from doing the math. Okay? So here's again a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Is this 14 a leg or the hypotenuse? It's a leg, right? Because it's coming up to make the right angle. So that one's 14. What's this one? 14. What's that one? 14 square root of 2. Okay? Yeah, there's a special needs student down the hall, and he's been having trouble today. Do you want to shut our door for us? Okay? Bless you. All right? Now, once you get the relationship of x, and x squared root of 2, the only thing left to make it any more difficult is just the algebra. Okay? So they try to throw like lots of different things at you. Like if they said, what is this, a leg or a hypotenuse? Leg. Even though it says square root of 2, it's the leg, right? So what's this leg? 4 square root of 2. Okay? And this one would be whatever x is times the square root of 2, right? Isn't that what we said? Take whatever x is and multiply it by square root of 2. So since x is 4 square root of 2, I'm still going to multiply it by the square root of 2. What is the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? 2, right? It's actually square root of 4, which would be 2. So these become 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. So the length of the hypotenuse is 8. Did everybody see how I did that? Questions? Okay. All right, how about this one? We've got, is this a leg or a hypotenuse? Leg. So this one's 3 radical 6. What's this one? 3 radical 6. Again, only in a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And this one would be 3 radical 6 times radical 2. So I'd put 3 radical 6 times radical 2. What's radical 6 times radical 2? Radical 12. So I'd do 3 radical 12, and I have to simplify that. 12 breaks down into 4 and 3, and then 2 and 2. There's a part pair, so they get to go out. This guy has to stay home because he's out by himself. So the 2's come out and multiply by the 3, so it's 6 radical 3. So the final length of this side is 6 radical 3. Okay? We okay with that? Here, you mean? Right, because you take whatever x is, so in this case x is 3 radical 6, and you multiply it by radical 2. Yeah, always, like this relationship always holds. X, x, and then take whatever x is and multiply it by radical 2. Okay? All right? How about this one? Is this the hypotenuse or a leg? Hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse should be equal to what? X or x squared root of 2? X squared root of 2. So let's set it equal to x squared root of 2. But I'm trying to find x, so I want to solve this equation for x. So what would I do? Divide by, well, think about it this way. If it were 12 equals 2x, how would you divide? Well, how would you solve for x? Divide by 2, right? Well, square root of 2 is a number, just like 2 is. Okay, it's just ugly, but we don't want to discriminate on appearance, right? We got to treat it the same way. So we're going to divide by the square root of 2. Okay? So what's square root of 2 divided by square root of 2? 1. So on this side, I have x. On this side, I have 12 over square root of 2. But you can't have, if you remember back to geometry or to algebra, you can't have a radical in the bottom of your fraction. So to get rid of it, we multiply by whatever the radical is. So in this case, since it's radical 2, we're going to multiply by radical 2. Top and bottom. So radical 2 times radical 2 is 2. And radical 2 times 12 is just 12 radical 2. Because you can't multiply radicals outside and inside. Like an outside number can't multiply by an inside number. You have to just stay separate. And then both of these are outside, so I can divide. What's 12 divided by 2? 6. So my final answer is x equals 6 radical 2. Okay? So that's x. X is 6 radical 2. That means the legs are both 6 radical 2. Okay? So do you see how when the legs were radical 2, we got a whole number? And when the hypotenuse was a whole number, we got the legs to be something radical 2, right? So they work both ways. Okay? So that's 45, 45, 90 triangles. Are we okay with those? Yeah, kind of? All right. The other special triangle that has a guaranteed relationship of its sides is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So we got a 30-degree angle, a 60-degree angle, and a 90-degree angle. In a triangle, the side across from the smallest angle is the smallest side. The side across from the medium angle is the medium side. And the side across from the largest angle is the largest side. Okay? So in this case, 30 is obviously the smallest, right? So it's across from just plain old x. So the side across from 30 is just x. Okay? 60 is the medium size angle, right? Because this one's 90, it's bigger. And 60 is across from the medium size side. Because what is the square root of 3? Like what number? If you type that in your calculator, what do you get? .7. So another way you could write that is 1.7x, right? So which is bigger, 2x or 1.7x? Which one's bigger? 2x, right? So this is the smallest because you're not multiplying it by anything. This is the medium one because you're multiplying it by 1.7. And this is the largest because you're multiplying it by 2. So the x is across from the smallest angle, the x squared root of 3 is across from the medium-sized angle, and the 2x is across from the largest angle. Okay? So it's x radical 3, 2x. Okay? So if we go through, if this side is 5, what's this side? Good, 5 radical 3. And this side? 10. Good. If this is 8, this is 8 radical 3 and, right, if this is 10, then this is 5 radical 3 and 5, right? Okay, they're always the same relationship. All right, so let's try some with the numbers in different places. So if this one's 60, what's this one? This angle? 30. Okay, that makes this the shortest side, right? So if this is 5, what's this side? 5 radical 3. Good. And this one? 10. Make sense? Okay? Well, not always. Like if this one happens to be a whole number, then it would make these two radicals. So not always. You can't always depend on the medium side being something radical 3. Sometimes it could be a whole number because the other two were radicals. Just like when we did up here, you can't always count on the hypotenuse being something radical 2, because if these were radical 2, that made that a whole number. See what I mean? Okay. All right, so let's do this one. This is the short side. This is the medium side. That's the long side, right? So if this is 6 radical 2, what should it be equal to? X radical 3, or 2x? X radical 3, because it's across from the medium angle. So how do I solve for x? Good. I divide by radical 3. Okay, those cancel, so I just have x on that side. And on this side, I got to get rid of that radical 3 by multiplying top and bottom by radical 3. Radical 3 times radical 3 is 3, right? It's radical 9, but radical 9 is 3. And then radical 6 times radical 2 is radical 6. So I have 6 radical 6 over 3. And both of these numbers are outside the radical sign, so I can divide them. What's 6 divided by 3? 2. So in this case, x is equal to 2 radical 6. So where does that go? Here or here? Yeah, here. 2 radical 6. That's what x is. This is 2x. So I take my x and I multiply by 2. So what's the answer there? 4 radical 6. Good. Okay? Because you remember, you multiply, adding, multiplying anything, you can only do outsides together and insides together. I always think of radical as like a prison. You can't go in, you can't come out. You got to stay, unless you have a date, then you have to stay in, okay? All right, so what's this angle? 60, because that's 30, so 30, 60, 90. Okay, the side across from 30 is 10 radical 3. What should it be? X squared to 3, or 2x? The side across from 60, should it be x squared to 3, or 2x? X squared to 3. So isn't it kind of easy to see what x is? 10. Good. It's just 10. So x is 10, so I look at the side across from 30, and that's 10. So that makes the hypotenuse what? 20, right? 2 times x. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay. All right, let's do this one. All right, this is x squared to 3, or 2x? It's 2x. It's a hypotenuse. Good. So to solve for x, I would divide by 2, right? What's x? 3. So where would that go? On the bottom, right? Across from the 30. And so what does this side equal then? 3 radical 3. X times radical 3. So far, so good? Okay. I'm taking your silence as, well, some of your silence as consent. All right. So is a leg or hypotenuse? Leg. Is it across from the 60 or the 30? 60. So is it equal x? X squared to 3 or 2x? Right. So I'd set that equal to x squared to 3. Do you remember how to solve for x? Awesome. Good. Okay, those cancel. So I get x is equal to, and I can't leave that square root of 3 in the bottom, so I need to multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 3. So that gives me on the top 15 square root of 3. And then square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just 3. Okay, and since these are both outside the radical sign, 15 divided by 3 is 5. So x is equal to 5 radical 3. Right? So that's across from the 30. Okay? So then what's the hypotenuse? 10 radical 3. 2 times 5 radical 3. Because 5 radical 3 is x. So 2 times x, which is 10 radical 3. Okay? Make sense? Okay. All right.